Hey y'all, my name is Jay Greenlee, and for those of you that don't know me, I'm a junior here at Bryan High School and a member of the youth program here at BCC, and I would like to share with you my testimony. I was born here in Bryan, Texas on March 3rd, 2008, and I was apparently pretty eager to get here with you today because I wasn't due for another 3 months. Because I was born so early, I was an emergency C-section, weighing only 2 pounds 12 ounces, and I had to spend the first 2 months of my life in the NICU. When I was finally brought home, I had lots of trouble getting around, and I was eventually diagnosed with cerebral palsy, a condition where, because my motor functions hadn't fully developed, my muscles were constantly tightening. This is more aggressive in my legs, however, it does affect my whole body, giving my legs an almost bow-legged appearance. I was raised in a very Christian household, and I'm told that when I was younger, I had a very strong, childlike faith. My parents say I was always praying. I would say things like, just pray about it, or God will hear you if you pray about it. This faith carried me through all of elementary school and intermediate school, and through my bouts with very severe asthma, which I thankfully outgrew. It was so severe, in fact, that there were about 6 times where I had to be rushed to the ER until I finally got a decent treatment plan. Other than that, though, I hardly had any complications with cerebral palsy, aside from wearing corrective braces on my legs as a younger kid and the occasional bully. When I finally got to middle school and had my first growth spurt, my cerebral palsy really started to flare up, leaving me in lots of pain almost every day to the point that it was chronic. It got so bad that we started seeking help again from Shriners Children's Hospital in Galveston in hopes that they would ease the pain in my legs. At my first appointment with them, the doctor suggested I get surgery because the cerebral palsy had twisted my femurs and was restricting my knee flexion. This surgery would require doctors to break my femurs, twist them straight, insert titanium rods down the middle, and cut my hamstrings. We attempted to schedule it for the summer of 8th grade around June 2022. However, my doctor suggested I try a muscle relaxer for a while to see if surgery was really necessary. This, unfortunately, pushed my procedure back until the summer of 2023, forcing me to attend my first year of high school still battling with this disability. This everyday pain really affected my grades and my self-esteem. Finally, May rolls around, and it is time for me to head to Shriners for my operation. I was fairly nervous, but through lots of prayer, the Lord gave me just an unexplainable sense of peace and helped me through this tough time. When my surgery was finished, I was bedridden for almost 3 days, while I gained enough strength to be able to stand. And after a long and pretty boring 3 days, I was moved from the hospital to the Ronald McDonald House in Galveston. I don't remember very much from this time, probably from the large amounts of painkillers, but my mom definitely does. She has some pretty funny videos that I made her promise not to share. Soon after this, I started 3 weeks of very intense physical therapy, in which I would essentially have to relearn how to walk. Relying much on God's strength and visits from the youth both here at BCC and at my other church, Grace Bible, I persevered through this and I progressed very quickly for those 3 weeks. However, I still needed crutches by the time I was released back to Bryan. I spent much of my time in Bryan resting because of the immense pain that tends to come with 2 broken legs. Although I did begin physical therapy with the Bryan High athletic training staff as well. When the school year finally started, I thought I could walk it on crutches. However, the large amount of walking rendered me too exhausted to do any kind of physical therapy, and I quickly learned how large Bryan High really was. I opted instead for a wheelchair. This wheelchair allowed me to get through my classes and still do about 2 hours of daily physical therapy after school. Being in a wheelchair, though, was really tough on both my mental health and my faith, because I felt very helpless in it. This sense of helplessness and sadness slowed my progression in physical therapy, made my grades drop fairly low, and made me resent getting surgery, to a point where I was almost angry at God for putting me in this situation. However, at the beginning of the second semester, I met a grad student and athletic trainer named Reagan. Reagan was a very strong Christian who was very encouraging and helped me get, quite literally, back up on my feet. And pretty soon, I was up on crutches again. This was a big improvement, but I still had a long way to go, both physically and spiritually. Through the rest of the semester, I kept going to physical therapy, but the pain from the initial surgery and from physical therapy was very severe, and I still struggled to go to school many days, keep my grades up, and deal with the depression of my situation. I knew that God was watching over me, but I didn't always feel like He was very close by. I remained like this throughout the school year and into the summer, until I was invited by Miss Kelly on our recent mystery trip to Barton Springs. When we first set out on the trip, I was a little apprehensive, since I wasn't too close with the youth at BCC and was really only friends with a few people. However, it turned out to be an amazing weekend for me and was really uplifting spiritually and physically. The activities on the first day were so fun, and the Bible study was even better. It was the second day, however, that truly changed my life. The morning and afternoon were fun. We had great food. We got to swim in the freezing cold water at Barton Springs, but it was the Bible study and activity that night that was the best part. We talked about the narrow door in Luke chapter 13 and how life with Christ is like a narrow path and it'll be hard to walk. However, the reward at the end will be great. This resonated with me a lot, as I had been through many trials recently. After the Bible study, we went out to walk the labyrinth, which was a faith exercise where you walk this large stone pathway in a maze formation to a space in the center for reflection. It was around sunset, and the labyrinth was on this hill with a beautiful view of the cross that the sun sets perfectly on. As I'm walking this labyrinth, I'm praying, and I'm asking God, why did you give me cerebral palsy? Why? What is the point of all this? After about 3 minutes of praying and walking, I look up to the cross, and I literally hear God speak so clearly in my mind. And he says, it wasn't just for you, Jake. It was to inspire others. Keep in mind, I was still on crutches. However, I decided to try and walk the labyrinth without them as a show of faith. And while God is telling me this, I'm sitting in the center almost in tears because I had never thought of my cerebral palsy that way. I'd always seen it as some kind of punishment or just a consequence of living in this broken world. It never occurred to me that it was something God could use. And it was this God-spoken thought that really inspired me and completely changed my perspective on life. I was so thankful to God for showing me this that when I finished the labyrinth, I hugged Miss Kelly and immediately went and set my last crutch at the cross, and I walked away. I realized that the only thing I needed to lean on was Jesus, that he was all I needed, and that he always was and always will be there for me. And I haven't had to use my crutches since this day. Amen.